weekend has just gone by, which means there's another weekend box office. This time for the weekend of May 30, 2014. We had some big movies that came out, Maleficent, and Million Ways Down the West. So which one opened number one, which one became a big hit, and which one sort of fizzled? Let's have a look at the box office results. Let's have a look at the US box office results first. At number one is the new Disney movie, Maleficent, loosely based on the Sleeping Beauty story and the 1959 Walt Disney movie, Sleeping Beauty, which grossed $69.4 million in its opening weekend, which is the highest grossing opening weekend for a film starring Angelina Jolie, so there's some good news there. And it opened on par with Oz the Great and Powerful last year, which grossed around $79 million in its opening weekend. So, and that movie, long term, grossed I think $250 million, so there's some good news there. Let's see if it holds up like that, like Oz. And number two is X-Men Days of Future Past, which grossed $32.55 million in its second weekend, which is kind of a similar second weekend that Godzilla experienced. I think Godzilla had $31 million in its second weekend, so it's on par with Godzilla. Yeah, I hope it does better. I hope it's getting more. I don't know. The reviews are great. The movie is great. I've seen it, and it's one of my favorite films of the year. So I'm hoping more people see it because it's definitely a film that will re-energize people who have probably seen Last Stand, like that's it for X-Men. But this movie really does re-energize, and it actually makes you excited for more X-Men movies. So yeah, everyone should see it. And number three is A Million Ways Down the West, which opened to $16.8 million, which is, yeah, it's alright, but I don't know. I know it wasn't going to get near Ted level, which grew, I think, $54 million back in 2012, but I was expecting at least maybe $25 million for its opening weekend. So, granted, I have not seen the movie yet. I'm planning on seeing it next week. So, but like I really like Ted, so I really wanted this movie to do well, and yeah, maybe it'll have it might gross more long term. Who knows? At number four is Godzilla with $12 million in its third weekend, which is pretty good. At number five is Blended, which grossed $8.14 million in its second weekend. Not a bad drop off, but it opened $14 million last weekend, so as it's not a bad drop off, but it's long term it's going to be one of Adam Sandler's lowest grossing movies, so that's a bit disappointing. At the Australian box office, at number one, X-Men Days of Future Past in its second weekend, $4.5 million. Maleficent couldn't reach X-Men levels for the second weekend. Yeah, that's great. I love it. But Maleficent was close of topping X-Men at number two with $4 million in its opening weekend, which is a pretty good hold. And I guess I was one of the people who went to see it anyway, so it was a good hold, good opening, I should say. So yeah, number three is A Million Ways to Die in the West, which opened at $2.2 million. I don't know. That's good. Number four, Godzilla, $1.2 million in its third weekend. And the number five is Bad Neighbors with $1.1 million in its fourth weekend. Bad Neighbors is like a comedy phenomenon. It's really doing well in Australia, and it's doing well overseas everywhere. So good for Seth Rogen and Zac Efron. And X-Men Days of Future Past has grossed past $500 million worldwide, being the third film of the year to do so after Captain America: The Winter Soldier and The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which is now the highest grossing X-Men film in the X-Men series, and the first film in the franchise to do so, having grossed $500.2 million in just 2 weeks of release, which is good science for X-Men. Yeah, so that's the weekend box office for the weekend of May 30, 2014. Make sure you like us on Facebook at facebook.com/everythingfilm, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos, and follow us at Twitter at everythingfilm1. That's it for the weekend box office. Join us next week for more box office of the weekend, where The Fault in Our Stars and Edge of Tomorrow go face to face. Which movie will open number one? Only time will tell. So that's it, guys. Goodbye.